my gosh. I'm so 80s. Okay, enough of that. What's up, guys? How you doing? I recently sold all my Micro Four Thirds equipment and bought into the new Nikon Z system. I bought a Z6 and a Z7. Bought the Z6 for my product photography. Going back into full frame from Micro Four Thirds is quite an experience after 4 years of Micro Four Thirds. It's a new learning curve, big wow factor for me, so I'm happy. But with the Z6, I wanted to build the ultimate run and gun cage. I have a gimbal, which I'll make a video on someday. I have a slider that I've already made a video on. I'll put the link up here. But I wanted the ultimate run and gun. And some of you might think I'm a little crazy building such a sandcastle of parts here, but anyways, I wanted to make a video on the build itself and all the parts that I used, and it's a 39-minute video. So I don't want to bore you with all the details unless you're interested, watch it. Otherwise, skip to the end and we'll talk about the whys and hows and see what you think. So let's jump in.
Okay, let me start out by saying that I am not sponsored by any of the manufacturers you see here before you. That being said, Smallrig has been around for a while, and they make some awesome products. They have a lot of products for versatility of building your cage and adapting things. Their machining, in my opinion, is top quality. Their anodizing is not quite a matte finish. As you can see, it has a slight sheen to it. It's very smooth. I don't know what kind of aluminum they're using. It feels very light. There's 1/4 and 3/8 holes everywhere you look. This cage is for the Z6 buildup that we're doing today. Looking around the cage, you'll see a couple features such as strap mounts here in the corners. I don't know why you'd want to mount a strap to a cage, but you definitely have the option if you want to do that. There's a cold shoe mount in front of that. There's 3/8, 2 1/4-20s, a bunch of 1/4-20s across the top, 2 3/8. On the left side, there's 3 3/8 and a bunch of 1/4-20s, and this is also a rail, a NATO rail. So you could hook different things to that as well. Going across the bottom, it's all cut out for easy access of the battery door on the Z6 and Z7. You'll see 2 3/8 and a bunch of 1/4-20s. I'm a little disappointed in the 1/4-20 locking mount for the camera not being a hex head. It's a flat head, and you can see I've already damaged it a couple times by trying to tighten it down. I would have rather had a hex head, and I may switch that out for a hex at a later date. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with the machining. As of today's date of the making of this video, Smallrig is the only one that has a cage for the Z6 and Z7 so far, to my knowledge. I might be wrong. Leave comments in the bottom. Anyway, so yeah, let's get started with this build. Now, normally I would go ahead and put the camera in first, but for my build, from that picture, and I'll flash the picture here again, I have to put one of the RoadLink receivers on first. Otherwise, I won't be able to get it on if I get the camera in there and start to build. So while we're talking about the RoadLink receiver, I love RoadLink. They feel very sturdy. The operating times are long enough for me. They use standard AA batteries, very easy to link and sync up with each other. My only complaint about these is that they don't use standard 1/4-20s for the hot shoe mount. And everybody else, to my knowledge, would use a 1/4-20, and I could use a metal hot shoe mount if I want, or cold shoe mount if I wanted to. So they ship you these plastic cold shoe mounts with these, and they're just horrible. They have a plastic locking ring, and the more you tighten them, the more the plastic bevels and actually pops out of the cold shoe or on your camera. So I thought that was not very good of them to do that to us, but I found some workarounds, and we'll talk about that now. So let me move some of this stuff out of the way. So again, you know, your mileage may vary. I'm using 2 receivers for this build out. One for a lavalier mic and one for the news shooter mic if I want to do interviews. And this way I don't have to unplug things and replug things in, and I'm just a complete run and gun, ready to go cage system for video. So, okay, so one of the workarounds I found is that these little screws, being not quarter 20, they're M4, which is a metric machine screw M4. So I had to go to my local hardware store and buy a longer M4 screw for this build out. So that's one of the mods you'll have to do. They come with these little M4 screws that are just super tiny and not long enough for my application for this build out. So what I did was I bought a, I guess it's a half-inch or inch long M4 screw, and I bought an extra washer because what we have to do is we're going to actually go through one of these quarter 20s right next to the cold shoe, and that sticks out far enough that I'll be able to screw the road link right down to the cage. And the reason I'm doing this first is because, like I said, once I get the camera in there, I won't be able to get to this screw. Now I do recommend using Loctite, blue Loctite, not the red or green, because you'll never get the screws out. But for this build, I'm just going to give them a nice torque. Now, if you like to tinker, building a cage is awesome. I love to tinker and figure out what works for me. And that's where Amazon comes in, because you can get all these parts and kind of build it out, and then the parts you don't use you can send back. So anyway, so I wanted to get that on there first, and now we're going to go ahead and get the camera in the cage. Another cool feature while we're putting the camera in the cage here that Smallrig decided to do was put a little threaded screw here for a tiny M2 or M1.5 screw. And that's for, well, let's go ahead and drop the camera in. So the camera seats in very nicely, sits down in there quite nice. It rests against this D-ring mount for your strap. And that's where that quarter 20 screw, or not quarter 20, excuse me, that M12 or M14 millimeter, whatever it is, screw is going to go right in there and lock down. Now I'm not going to tighten that all the way just yet. I'm just going to seat it because what we need to do next is tighten up this screw. And again, I really wish they would have went with a hex head or something different. I don't like to carry around a flathead screwdriver with me in my bag, but it's going to remain in this cage the whole time. So now this I'm going to really just torque down on because I want it to be super tight. Now see how that slipped out? If that would have been a hex head, that wouldn't have happened. Alright, so I got that nice and tight. While we're looking at the bottom, you can see I can still access my battery compartment. I don't have fingernails, so I couldn't open it all the way, but super easy to access the battery, take it out. Alright, so moving along, you can see the fit in the fitment of the Z6, how well it fits. I can still grab it. This bar here really, I have bigger hands, so for people with smaller hands, this might make it a little thicker to grab, but I really find that it helps me grab the camera a lot better. Also, just ergonomically, yeah, feels good. Okay, so the next thing we need to put on, because we're going to build up, So the next thing we need to put on would be our center handle. Now, there was all kinds of center handles that I was looking at, and I knew that I wanted to keep everything as low and as tight as possible. They make what's called, Smallrig makes what's called a T-handle that you can adjust. But then I would have had to add a rod end, and that would have made it longer. So I found this, I'm going to call it a Z handle because it's in the shape of a Z, and I'm putting it on my Z camera. But so it is permanently in that area, but adding the addition of this hole for the 15mm rod is still going to give me plenty of room to grab this handle. Again, see, I have big hands, so my pinky actually falls off the handle there, but just a really sturdy handle. And that's going to fit right here in the center. Oh, by the way, it has these two locking pins, so it will not twist on you. And see the holes down here? Those are going to fit right in those holes and fit in that 3/8 socket right there in the middle. And then I'm going to take an Allen wrench. If you notice, there's these holes right here. I'm going to take an Allen wrench, stick it through those holes, and so I can really get some nice pressure on tightening that lock down and make sure it's tight. Well, I don't want to break my screwdriver there. Okay, so I got that in. So the next thing would be to slide in the rail. Now I don't want to lock this rail down permanently yet because I'm going to be making some adjustments to it left and right. So I'm just going to snug it up for now. Another thing I want to tell you is about Smallrig is they have these cool ratcheting screws. So once you get tight, if you can't get a good bite on it, you can pull this knob out and ratchet it around until you can get to a better area where you can get some leverage to really tighten it. But we're going to leave that loose, kind of loose for now, so we can slide this around. So in that picture that was attached to this video, and I'll show it again, you'll see that my monitor was on the left side of the camera. And again, back to tinkering. I love to tinker. So I actually found it balanced better when I moved it to the right. So for this build out, I'm going to put it on the right side of this rail. So that's what we're going to do next is add the monitor brackets. So I had to buy a few parts, which I think I already said, but if I didn't, I'm going to link all these parts so that you don't have to go through what I did to find out what works best if you're looking to build a similar rig. The first thing I had to do was buy this 15mm rail clamp with a flat top. And then the second thing I bought was a NATO rail, the smallest one they make, that is a high-rise NATO rail. So let's go ahead and bolt that down right now. Now all of Smallrig's parts come with the hardware and screws that you need to add them to your next level that you're going to build out. So this one came with you know, 2 1/4-20 screws and an Allen wrench. So that you really don't need many tools to do these mods. A basic screwdriver and a needle nose pliers, possibly some cable ties to manage your cables, the normal stuff that you would normally do or have laying around the house anyways. So we're going to screw this rail down to that flat of the rail clamp, and we're going to make sure it's straight here. All right, and then I'm really going to torque on this. You're going to want to use Loctite for your build out, so none of this stuff will ever come loose on you. Again, I'm not using it for this video build, but if when I take it apart again, I will. Another cool thing about this high-rise NATO rail is it has spring-loaded stoppers. So once you slide on your video clamp mount, it won't slide off. So as you can see, those stop it from sliding off. And then we'll go ahead and lock this here somewhere in the middle, and then we're good. Okay, so we're going to slide this. Oh, by the way, the other thing I like about this top handle and the way I have this set up with my Rode receiver, if you can see the space there, nothing touches anything on this whole build. It's almost like it was meant for the parts that I'm using. I don't know if Smallrig knew that or did that on purpose, knowing that we were going to build things of this nature, but everything seems to glide together just perfectly. So again, I'm putting this on the right side. I found it to be better on the right side. After I built it the first time, I took it apart. Again, I like to tinker. I took it apart and found it to be balanced better with the monitor and the Rode links on the right side and the zoom and the microphone to be on the left. So once I get that in the general area, again, I'm not tightening everything down permanently with these ratcheting screw locks. I'm just kind of snugging things up for now till we get closer to finalizing the build. But okay, so now we got that. The next thing we're going to put on is the other Rode link. And again, I'm using two Rode links. One for a lapel lavalier microphone and one for a the news shooter or off-camera wireless microphone. And again, my problem with these is that they're not using quarter-20, so I had to devise a way to get this really low and attach it to this rail. So I looked at Smallrig again and came up with this pretty nifty clamp for the rail. And again, it seems like Smallrig and Rode got together on building some of these things because they really seem to match up perfectly. So let me push this out of the way. The Rode link comes with these horrible plastic cold shoe mounts that I don't like, and why they didn't use quarter-20. I've said it a couple times already. I just don't understand why. But I took the screws out of those plastic cold shoe mounts from Rode because they're a M4, and I bought some little tiny washers to make it so that it doesn't slip through this bracket. And that way I can just screw this right on into those two holes. It came with two. Each Rode link transmitter and receiver come with two cold shoe mounts because they know you're going to break them. That's how horrible they are. They even know they're going to break, so they ship you with two. So I just stole the screws from those ones and bought some washers to fit into this bracket from Smallrig. So I'm just going to line this up nice and straight. And then again, we would normally be using blue lock, thread lock on these screws so that nothing comes loose in the future when you're running and gunning. I'm so excited about this rig. I got a big ice race coming up here in Michigan off of Cass Lake in the end of February, and I'm taking this rig and my new Crane 3. So I'll have a Z6 on the Smallrig cage, and I'll have a Z7 on the Crane 3. And I'll show you a video about that another day. Anyway, so all right, so we got that all set up. And now this, of course, isn't going to slide past this Rode link, but that's why I left this main rail loose, because we're just going to slide that on and butt it up next to the Rode link. Let's see if I can get a better angle for you. And what I want to do is bring it right to the edge of that rail before I tighten it up. Right to the very edge is where I want it. Might have to spin it around one more time here. Again, using those ratcheting clamps makes it easy. right to the very edge, like that. And the reason I'm bringing it right to the very edge is because I need more of this long tube to go on the left side of the camera. So once I get that fairly tight, that's why we left this main rail kind of loose, so I could loosen it all the way and bring it nice and snug next to the two road links next to each other. It was the purpose of me doing that. So my fingers are so big. Alrighty, and then kind of level it out, and we'll be able to fine tweak things at the end here. All right, so now I'm going to kind of crank down on that. Well, maybe I shouldn't have done that yet. It's a little crooked. Okay, so as you can see now, look at how nice that is. Got the two road links right here, and then the monitor is going to fit right over top of that road link. So everything nice and squished, condensed together, easy accessible. Monitor, you can monitor both the screens, all the screens at once with a glance. Alrighty. Oh, geez. Okay. All right, so let's see, what's next? So next, I guess we want to do the microphone. The microphone's going to go on next. So again, Road Link, or not Road Link, excuse me. So again, Smallrig makes a really cool rail-mounted, rubberized clamp for my NTG3 or whatever or your Deity, whatever shotgun mic you want to put on here. And look, it's rubber mounted in such a way to not take some vibration out of your movement that you're not going to hear in your audio. So let's get that slid on. Let's see, which way will that go? I think we're going to put this on this way. No, now I can't remember. No, I think it goes on this way. I'm trying to make all my these locks accessible from the front so that I can get to them if I ever need to move them around. If I need to move them over, give me some room. I want them accessible. And then see how you can ratchet them so that they're perfectly straight. You know, they're not sticking out everywhere. All right, so then after that, we have the quarter 20 for the zoom. So for the zoom H5. So that screws on the back, and that'll mount to the rail as well. So let's go ahead and slide that on. And I believe it's going to angle down like that. And again, I'm just leaving things loose for right now, and we can adjust them at, later. Okay, and then more on the left is one of the handles. So because of all my cabling and my zoom coming down right here, there's really no room on this rail to add a handle like this, because it'll just be in the way of the zoom, and it'll be in the way of the cabling management that I'm going to put here. So Smallrig makes a rubber handle as well as these metal handles, and I like the rubber for outside, especially either sweaty hands or cold hands wearing gloves. It really grips nice. This rubber, it's knurled rubber, and I don't know how long it's going to last, if it's going to hold up in the weather under sweaty conditions or cold conditions. But for now, I felt this was the best to keep the rig really tight. So on this left side, this is going to go at the end right here, and we're just going to tighten that up. So pretty loose for now. Not going to crank on anything yet until we get everything where we want it. And then on the right side, I could just leave it like this. I could run and gun just like this, one handle on the left, and then the camera body in my right. And I like it like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very sturdy. I can do panning shots very easy, and tilting shots very easily. But I got big hands, and I really just wanted to have another handle. So this area on the side is so small, I couldn't find a handle that just bolted to these quarter 20s. There's only 4 quarter 20s and 1 3/8. So I ordered a couple different handles, and I wasn't happy with them. And then I found this, again, keeping with the rubber. I really wanted a rubber handle. But gosh, this bracket is just so big. And if I would have put it on like this, it would have stuck down past the camera. And then I wouldn't have been able to set the camera on the table like this. But then I thought, well, what if I flipped it upside down? And this is a top handle. I think this is meant to be used as a top handle because it has a cold shoe mount here. So again, that's the nice thing about Amazon. If something doesn't work, you can send it back. So I took a chance and bought this. And again, I'm going to link all these parts in the description down below. So if you're trying to build this exact rig or something similar, you'll have all the links to every single part. Anyway, so I wanted to mount this handle on the side, but guess what? It didn't fit. This slide rail here in the middle is narrower than quarter 20. So I did have to mod out this handle, and you'll see the gouges from my drill marks. I don't have a drill press, so I really couldn't do a good job. I just handheld the drill, and it flew out of my hands, and it grabbed, and I actually got a boo-boo from doing it because this piece swung around and gouged me right there, and blood went everywhere, and I was really pissed off that I was even wrecking a $50 or $40 part by doing this. But I didn't want to go to a machinist, which is probably what I should have done. But if you have a drill press, you could do a way better job than I did. But I just used a chamfering bit and gouged it in there for now anyways. And I'm going to call Smallrig and see if they have anything similar to this that just has quarter 20 holes to mount to the side of this. And if not, maybe they'll be interested in making one. So anyways, so yeah, let's put this on and take a look. So to put this handle on, it's just easier to take these 4 screws off so I can get to this plate. So let me unscrew these real quick, and we'll move forward with that. So what do you guys think so far? Leave the comments below. Am I crazy for doing all this? I'm sure you're going to want to know the weight. I haven't weighed it yet. I'll probably have to do that and leave that in the description. I can tell you the size when I'm all done here. Height and width and depth and all that kind of stuff. So now the rig is way harder to stand on its side or stand on its end because we've got a lot of parts going on here. So we're just going to lean it like that. And let's see, we're going to use these. So this upper hole has a 3/8 hole, and the rest are quarter 20. So if I got one of these little adapters that I had laying around in my bag, it's 3/8 to quarter 20. So we'll just go ahead and put that in there. This way I can use the quarter 20 screws in the top and the bottom to really make this handle secure. So we're just gonna get that tightened up a little bit. I had the proper size screwdriver. Okay. Alrighty. And we're going to use some giant size quarter 20s here. And we'll get this one started. The other advantage of that I found of adding this handle anyways, even though it really wasn't meant for what I'm doing, is this big base gives the camera a nice sturdy stance when you're setting it down, so it won't topple over. And it lines up pretty good with the bottom. Sucks having big fat hands like I got trying to do work with all these little tiny parts. Alright, so before I tighten these up, I'm gonna stand it back up and see that it's down all the way on the table, so it's flush on the table, if you can see that. So that really gives you some more stability when you set your rig down. And now we'll go ahead and crank on these pretty darn good so they don't move. Okay, and then we'll put the handle in there and get one of these screws started. Starting to get precarious trying to hold it while you're putting everything in. Now I'm gonna have to start with a finger, I guess. Let's see, can I put it like that? There we go. There we go. Alright, get these locked down, and I've said it 3 times, but I'll say it one more time. Should be using Loctite so that none of this stuff comes when you're on a gig, when you're in a job. You don't want to pull this out of your bag and screws start falling out. So blue Loctite is what I recommend, some type of thread lock, but not the red or the green, because that's the heat treated Loctite that you won't be able to get these screws out. It hardens so tight. That's what they use in the automotive industry, is the red Loctite. So do not get the red Loctite. All right, well, there we go. We got a pretty sturdy handle on this rig. So where do we go from here? Well, I guess we could get the Atomos Ninja, my new Ninja V, screwed on to the plate here. Okay, and now Smallrig has a slot in this so that you can stick a Allen wrench in there and help tighten it up a little bit more. And I'm not afraid to do that because the new Ninja V is all aluminum versus the Inferno or the Flame, which is all plastic. And that'll tilt up like that. So you lay it down so you get a better idea of what it's starting to look like. Now I'm noticing that my Smallrig mic holder is hitting the back of the Inferno, so I think, well, I know that I definitely have to move that over. So see, as you're building this, and things are coming together, you see that you have to move things around a little bit, and yeah, so that's why I'm not tightening anything all the way yet. See, and now I can lay that down sideways if I need. Well, I didn't tighten that up either, did I? Let's tighten this up a little more. Okay, so now I can lay my Atomos down if I'm need it down, or tilt it the other way towards me if I'm shooting like this and I want to see what's going on. Alrighty, so we got that on there. What else? Okay, so here's another thing why I left everything loose. Actually, these have to come off because the HDMI cable for my Atomos rig which is gonna plug in here. And I bought the this is I think it's the 2-footer or the 1-footer by Atomos. And when it's stretched out, it's a 24-inch. Yeah, so this is the 1-foot cable. They make a 6-inch one. I almost got the 6-inch one, and I'm glad I didn't, because, and I'll show you why, because I found something nifty that you can do. See this tube right here? So I can take this cable and kind of uncoil and stretch it around once or twice. You don't have to do a bunch of times, and that's why I bought such a small tube to make it perfect fit, and then slide it. Now see, nothing's going to yank on that. It's securely down to this tube, and I really don't have to worry about it. So we can slide that all the way there like that, and now we can put this back on. So this is for the atomos, or the zoom. So many things, I'm getting confused. So let's go ahead and screw this on the back of the zoom and get all this lined up. And pretty much I'm going to bottom it out. I'm going to pretty much bottom that out to the bottom of the screw inside the zoom, and then I'm going to tighten up this upper tensioning or tightener like that. And you gotta be careful because this is plastic. Even though there's a metal thread inside, it's only in the plastic, so we don't want it too tight. And now we can slide that on and see where we're at here. Let's see. Yeah, looking pretty good. All right. So you see that? It's starting to come together. And how's that for cable management? See the cable management coming out, going around this two or three times. And then we can put our back handle back on here and get that tightened down. Like so. So really, I mean, other than cable management, getting my cables on, which I don't know if I want to bore you with that stuff, there it is. It's a self-contained rig, run and gun rig. Is it a little bit heavy? Yeah, it's a little bit heavy, but unless you're 12 years old, you should be able to carry this around all day. You got a handle here, so when you're not using it, you can carry it like that. You got a handle on top. When you're not using it, you can carry it like that. We can get our microphone put in here. Get that slid on. And the microphone is on that awesome little shock mount. Isn't that the coolest thing? And we can adjust the angle of that. Like that. Just the coolest invention right there. Look at it. See how that's, and it's not touching anything. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this. I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm pretty impressed with it. I can't wait to put it to use. I got it, like I said, I got a snowmobile racing event coming up, and we're going to be doing lots of interviews, and so I'm going to mic people or mic myself with the lav mic and walk around with that news shooter and interview people with the handheld microphone back and forth. And my camera guy, if it's not me, if I'm doing the interview, my camera guy is going to be all set up, ready to go with one unit. One last thing I want to show you before I go is one last item I picked up from Smallrig, and that's this clamp. And that is going to bolt right here to the side once I get my cables in, and that's going to hold my HDMI cable in place. So I'm not going to be worried about it being ripped out or ruin my jacks or my plugs. And also, once I put that in, right next to it, I'll still be able to fit my mic in from my line out of my Zoom. So I'll have redundancy in audio recording. I'll be able to record audio to my my Zoom. I'll be able to record audio while recording audio to the camera, and also while recording audio to the atomos. So I'll have 3 redundancy recordings of audio as well, which is pretty amazing.
Okay, so what do you think? Be totally honest with me. I want the the criticism. I want the critique-ness, if that's a word, I don't know if it is, about this build. I want to know what you think. Is it stupid? Did I waste a ton of money? You know, I really am just trying to step up my game, not only for you, the viewer, but for myself. I mean, this hobby, I say hobby, I do make money doing this kind of stuff with my product shoots, and now with my video in the past year, I've actually made a few $1,000s doing video. So, you know, the gear doesn't make the man. The man makes the gear. Female or male, doesn't, I'm sorry. So really, did I have to go and buy new equipment? Did I have to go and get all this stuff to do this? No, I didn't. I could have been very creative and just used what I had. You know, all these reviews about the Nikon and the Sony, all these wars that are happening, the Nikon, the Sony, the Canon, it doesn't matter. Use what you have. But anyways, so I hope you like this video. If you think I'm an idiot and I shouldn't have even built this monstrosity, hit the down button and tell me why. But if you think this is something that you're into, if you have GAS, which is an acronym for Gear Acquested Syndrome, if you have GAS like I do, then hit the like button and let's go for it and buy more products, right? So anyways, hit the like button, leave some comments, subscribe to my channel, and I'm about to hit 200 subscribers, which is cool for an old dude like me. I never thought I'd even get that many. But anyways, okay, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.